Hi, I'm Rick Harsh, editor of Corona Samizdat Press and professional reader and author. I just professionally read one of our latest productions, Volume 1 of Margi and the Atomic Brain by Zachary Tanner. Take a look at the terrific cover of this book. Take it all in. It's a throwback. It's a throwback. Monster movies. And look at this, the spine. What? What is that? What is on there? Well, you'll find out when volumes 2 and 3 come out, because it's going to make one picture that's going to be fantastic. I don't know if we're going to have 3 of these, though. That's an interesting question. And while we're talking about the externals, here's the flap is all written by Zachary Tanner, explaining what he's trying to do here, and then also done by Zachary Tanner, who typeset his own book. Look at that! Look at that! Whatever you call it, title page, something like that, or I don't know, something like that, and. The whole thing is typeset beautifully. Look, starting with, okay, that's the title of Volume 1. Book 1, Them. It's divided into, I think, 3 books per volume. Let's see, Book 1, there are 12 chapters. Book 2, there are 21 chapters. So, I don't know. I don't know about the rest of the book. But I don't know about the other 2/3. But I just read this. It's 500 and, oh, look at the other flap. There's the next 2 books. I hope you can get a good look at them. That's what they're going to look like. And my favorite is the one with the monkey, of course. And let's see. Is there anything else to look at back here? It just kind of ends. And it says end of Volume 1. So you know you're at the end of Volume 1. Plus there's no more words after page 559. So it's 559 pages. Most of it in a very readable font. But there is one part, and you know, I had a hard time. It wasn't that long, so I was able to manage. But there is one part where one of the characters, the writings of one of the characters is presented, and the font is therefore changed, and it's really, really tiny for me. But I'm older than you. You know who I'm talking to. And who I'm not. I don't know if I can find it readily, but anyway, it's a beautifully made book. This is the first book printed by our new printer. They did a terrific job. I'm really happy that they got the colors of the cover right, because colors can be unpredictable. They're not always exactly as you see. Oh, there's the back. That's all, there's the brain, and this is all brain matter, drawn by Zach's son, Marcel. This is how do I introduce this book? Well, I'll read what Zach wrote to some degree. In the way that it embellishes the implications of quantum physics in a narrative context, I consider my trilogy to be literature's first true multiverse novel, existing as a superposition of ever bifurcating and contradictory moments lived and relived within a greater web of experience that I hope, that's a little humility there, I hope, cumulatively suggests the macro-microcosmic nature of our own universe. The story is also my attempt to situate fully developed characters believably within a schlocky B science fiction plot. And he goes on to expand a little bit about that. My question, when I went into this, I had two main questions. One of them was whether or not he accomplished that, and also whether or not I would understand what he meant by the time I was done with the book. And I do, and he will. I have no doubt. What I've read so far is that good. The other question I had was what's it going to be like to finish this fairly large book and know that I have to wait 2 years for volume 2 and another 2 years for volume 4. He's got to end it so that you feel like there's some conclusion, but you're not, pissing yourself, waiting for the next part. Well, I think he did as well as you could do in that scenario. But I'm not pissing myself waiting for that. I'm pissing myself. Why do I say I'm pissing myself? I never say that. Well, anyway, waiting for this. I really want to see this. And I haven't talked to Zach about it, but what I'm thinking of doing is if we think we have the interest, maybe we'll print replica covers and sell them ahead of time for the next 2. So you can put any book inside and have the 3 on your shelf years ahead of time. I think that'd be a great idea. But then again, like I said, I haven't talked to Zach about it yet. So what do we have here? Primarily, I believe, given what he says here, the action is going to be in the 50s. What I have here starts in at the very beginning of World War I, and in small town Louisiana, and what's depicted are the lives of primarily of 2 young women whose men go off towards war. One of them doesn't quite get there, but that whole story is deeply fascinating and extremely well rendered. And the other one does get there, and that leads to some of the best flight war writing I've ever read, and descriptions that I wouldn't have thought I'd be even interested in of the bombers used, which are made sort of ironically by a factory outside this town, among others, throughout the United States, where the 2 women both work. And the 2 women, did I mention there are 2 women? My brain's going bad. Anyway, there are 2 women, and they both work at the factory. Oh, I mentioned that one, the 2 women, natural friends, and so on. But they're of very different beliefs and temperaments, and so their friendship is wrought and comes and goes, and that whole story, it's a melodrama, basically. So we want to call this a maximalist novel, and eventually we might, but the first 150 pages or so is straight melodrama with that was surprisingly fascinating to me. The writing is extremely good, but it's not tricky. It's not meta-fictional at this point. When he talks about the bombers, he talks about the bombers. When he talks about the problems between the women, he talks about the problems between the women. Now, what that does is it allows him to examine the society of the time in multifarious ways. Some of the most interesting involves racial matters, but that's not the center of the book. But when it does come up, it's rendered believably and for a northerner like me, a shocking way. But there are no gratuitous lynchings. Spoiler alert. No gratuitous lynchings. But you see how lynching becomes metaphorical. Here's some of the tiny print, by the way. Look at that. Look at that. I can read it. I mean, she was gone as she had appeared. But finally, Jebediah freed his slender, naked rods. He found himself in the middle of thick wood. Ground seeds brushed off onto his cotton frock and clung to tiny white fibers as they clung to his thick black mass of pubic hair. Oh, there's sex in the book. Spoiler alert or invitation? Huh? I'd say invitation. After that first third, you begin to get into what is characteristic of a maximalist novel are narrative shifts and time shifts and so on. Two of the characteristics. There are times when the narrator addresses the reader, but it's also natural that it's really not groundbreaking stuff. It's just the narrator cluing us in on something. And anyway, it was pretty amazing to me that I was so interested in that I was most interested in the relationship between the two women. Family politics is really fun stuff to read about, especially when things go to shit, not to spoil anything. Because when things go to shit in a marriage with children, it's kind of like, it's more like constipation, although sometimes it can be what they call in Slovenia, drishka, which is as it sounds. After that, the next third is setting up the rest of the book, although the first third does its share of that. But you start getting more characters in the book, among them the mad scientist type who is in the bayou country around this small town. And he eventually creates something like a time machine. That's not yet clear how it works, but it is clear that it works. And he's also involved in atomic physics, and the atomic age is a theme here, and also very well rendered. There's some really fascinating and fun stuff, dark too, about the father. Let me go back to one thing. The wives, the friends, each have a child, and much of the rest of this volume just goes into the point of view of Elliot, the one of the children, who's in love with the daughter of the other woman, whose name is Margi, the titular Margi. And it's an unrequited love, and there's a lot of what would be typically called coming of age stuff. Although so far he hasn't quite come of age, but I think he's going to. And so these are more characters, the father, Elliot's father, is building a bomb shelter, and that makes for a lot of fun, and also the relationship between, I guess he survived the war, huh? Spoiled. He survived the war, but I ain't gonna tell you how he did it. In one of the surest ways possible, and so he survived. But things are problematic between he and his wife, and and you know, there are moments where your gut kind of clenches and you think, God, I know that. I know how that goes. Ugly, ugly, the way people treat each other. And, you know, when she smashes a plate, you feel it. And the atmosphere is very well created. And and then at the same time, we have other characters. One of them, the one who wrote this excerpt. Wait, no, now I'm on another excerpt. There are a few excerpts. We get the autobiography of James Adelbert, a writer of Schlock, and he's going to be making a film, a monster movie, in the same place, Bayou Country. Why? Well, you know, an author manages to do those things and do it smoothly and well, as it's done here. And so they're making a monster movie, but of course there's a real monster there, and so it kind of saves them from having, hopefully, I don't know yet, saves them from having to build their own monster. You know, they can they can just film the one that's there. But it's starting to wreak havoc in this book, and there's some things that happen in the book that conflict with my memory of the little that Zach Tanner told me about the book. So I'm not sure what's coming, and I don't think you would be either. But there's some good sex in it, a lot of sex. There's one of the people sort of involved in the film, who's hosting a bunch of people at his former plantation and home. I think it was a former plantation home, but a big home out in the Bayou Country. He has written a film script called La philosophie dans la douche. And, well, suffice to say that it's got a lot of sex in it. And the film crew itself is an orgiastic bunch. And so there's some well-described orgies here. What Tanner is particularly good at is maintaining a straight face throughout. We also have who maybe at the end will be my favorite character, Lester Nubile, priest, who is having a little bit of trouble with his vows. Thus far, this, again, spoiler, I'm going to spoil the fuck out of this book. He doesn't fuck in volume 1, but he wants to. I mean, he doesn't actually say that, but you can tell. And so let's, you know, I'm really looking forward to what happens with Lester Nubile. I don't know if Mr. Tanner will tell me if I ask.